Bring me the waitress." That was all Adrian Cross said after hearing Emma Carter speak Italian, but those 4 words would destroy the life she thought she understood. One moment she was a broke law student, clearing wine glasses in a Chicago restaurant, calculating whether her next paycheck could cover rent and tuition. The next, the most dangerous man in the room, was watching her like he had already decided where she belonged. Rain pressed against the windows. Her feet ached inside cheap shoes. Her law books waited beneath the service counter. She had spent years making herself invisible, believing hard work would eventually buy her freedom. She was wrong. Because this is not only a story about a mafia boss and a waitress. It is about ambition control survival and the terrifying price of being chosen by power. Stay until the end then, like the video, and tell us where you are watching from. The words followed Emma home through the rain. Bring me the waitress. She heard them beneath the flickering light outside the Red Line station. She heard them while the train roared through the tunnel, rattling dirty windows and tired passengers. She heard them when she unlocked her studio apartment and found the same silence waiting for her that waited every night. The room was barely large enough for a bed, a narrow desk, and a hot plate beneath a cabinet that leaned away from the wall. Law books rose in uneven towers beside the mattress. A thrift store lamp cast a weak circle across case briefs, unpaid bills, and an empty coffee mug. Emma set the black card on the desk. No company name, no title, only a silver phone number and 2 handwritten words. Tomorrow, midnight. The sensible thing was to throw it away. Men like the one in the corner booth did not belong in the life Emma was trying to build. They belonged in sealed court records and newspaper photographs taken outside federal buildings. They were the men professors described when explaining influence, coercion, and power that existed beyond written law. Her phone vibrated. Her mother's name appeared on the screen. "You're home late?" Laura Carter said. "I closed tonight. You sound tired." "I am tired." "How is Dad's shoulder?" A pause. "He says it is fine." "That means it is not." Laura lowered her voice. "The doctor wanted Michael to stay home another week. The union would cover part of the lost income, but not all of it." Emma looked at the tuition notice beneath her casebook. $4,800 due by Friday. "I can come by Sunday," she said. "I'll bring groceries. You need to study. I can do both. You always say that. And I always do." Her mother sighed, but pride softened the sound. "Your father tells everyone his daughter is going to be a lawyer." Emma stared at the black card. "Not yet." "You will be." The certainty in Laura's voice hurt more than doubt would have. After the call, Emma tried to review constitutional law. Every paragraph blurred into dark eyes and a calm voice. At 2 a.m, she placed the card inside her textbook and forced herself to sleep. By 8, she sat in the back row of Professor Helen Brooks's class, with cold coffee between her hands. Professor Brooks had spent 15 years as a federal prosecutor. She spoke as if every word might later be entered into evidence. "Consent," she said, writing the word across the board, "is not always as simple as yes or no." Emma's pen stopped. A person may sign a contract. She may accept money. She may benefit from the agreement. But the law must still ask whether she had a meaningful choice. A student raised his hand. "If there is no direct threat, how do you prove coercion?" "You examine the circumstances. Economic pressure, unequal power, access to information, the consequences of refusal." Emma opened her textbook. The black card slid onto the desk. Professor Brooks's gaze touched it for one brief second. "Power rarely announces itself as violence," she continued. "More often it arrives disguised as opportunity." Emma turned the card face down. After class, she visited the financial aid office. A clerk with red glasses pulled up her account. "You still owe $4,800 by Friday. I applied for emergency assistance. It is under review. What happens if it is not approved? You may attend classes, but you cannot sit for final examinations until the balance is paid. Emma gripped the strap of her bag. How long does the review take? Usually 2 or 3 weeks. Friday is in 4 days. The clerk gave her a tired, sympathetic look. I know. Outside the office, Emma checked her bank account. $916. Rent would take $700. Her train pass renewed in 6 days. Her father was not working. Her mother was already cleaning extra offices at night. For one moment, Emma imagined calling them and admitting she could not finish. She imagined her father saying it was all right while blaming himself. She lowered the phone. At 6 that evening, she entered Voluto through the staff door. The kitchen was alive with steam shouting cooks and pans striking burners. Jessica, another server, tied her apron beside the lockers. Table 7 asked for you. Emma stopped. Who is at table 7? Jessica stared at her. You really do not know. Emma looked through the small window in the kitchen door. The man from the corner booth sat alone beneath the chandelier. He wore a black suit without a tie. One hand rested beside a leather folder. He was already watching her. The manager appeared behind Emma. Mr. Cross requested your section. Mr. Cross. The manager frowned. Adrian Cross. He owns Voluto. The name landed with the weight of recognition. Cross Holdings owned restaurants, apartment towers, trucking companies, and construction firms throughout Chicago. Emma had seen the name on buildings, campaign donor lists, and legal files involving disputes that always seemed to disappear before trial. She pushed through the door. The walk across the dining room felt longer than it had the night before. Good evening, she said. Can I bring you anything else? Sit down. I am working. You work for me. His voice was quiet. It did not need volume. Emma glanced toward the manager. He looked away. She remained standing. If this is about last night, I was speaking with customers. I know. You asked someone to bring me to you. I did. That is not how you speak about an employee. No, Adrian said. It is not. The honesty unsettled her. He gestured to the empty chair. Emma sat because refusing in front of the dining room would create a scene, not because he had ordered her. At least that was what she told herself. Adrian pushed the folder toward her. Inside was an employment agreement. Executive assistant and cultural liaison for Cross Holdings. The salary was nearly 3 times what she made at Voluto. Health insurance, tuition assistance, housing allowance, a signing bonus large enough to erase her school balance. Emma looked up. What is this, a job offer? Why me? Because you are observant. You heard me speak Italian. I watched you decide when to use it. That matters more. Emma closed the folder. You know nothing about me. I know you attend Lakefront University School of Law. I know you rank near the top of your class. I know your emergency aid application is still pending. I know you sometimes study in the employee locker room because your apartment is too cold. The dining room seemed to tilt. You investigated me. I verified what I observed. You had no right. Rights are protections, Adrian said. They are not barriers to information. Emma pushed the folder back. I am not interested. Read the final page. I said no. Read it anyway. She should have stood. Instead, she opened the folder again. A letter from Dean Malcolm Reed confirmed that the Cross Foundation would provide full tuition if Emma transferred into the evening law program. You spoke to my dean? Yes. Without asking me? Yes. Heat rose into her face. You cannot reorganize my education because you heard me speak Italian. The evening program includes practicing judges and senior attorneys. It is more selective than your current track. Emma knew that. She had applied the previous year and been rejected because there were too few seats. The offer was not merely generous. It was precise. Adrian had identified every pressure in her life and built a solution around it. You planned this before speaking to me. I started after I left last night. That was less than 24 hours ago. I do not require much time to make decisions. People are not decisions. A faint movement touched the corner of his mouth. No, they are more complicated. Emma stood. I am going back to work. Veluto closes for renovations on Monday. She froze. All hourly employees will be dismissed during construction, Adrian continued. Managers will receive temporary assignments, and the server's references. Emma slowly turned toward him. So, if I refuse, I lose my income. If you refuse, circumstances continue without my assistance. You own the circumstances. I own the building. I do not own your choice. The distinction was so carefully worded that Emma wanted to throw the folder at him. Instead, she placed it on the table. You know exactly what you are doing. Yes. There was no apology in the answer. For the rest of the shift, Emma moved on instinct. She poured wine-cleared plates and smiled without remembering a single face. When Adrian left, he paused beside her. You have until midnight tomorrow. I did not agree to meet you. You will. The arrogance should have made refusal easy. It did not. At home, Emma searched Adrian's name. The first results were polished. Hospitals funded. Scholarships awarded. Affordable housing announced. She moved past them. Court records showed labor disputes, aggressive property purchases, and accusations of intimidation. Most cases had been withdrawn. Witnesses had changed statements. One company that accused Cross Holdings of threatening its owners dissolved 3 weeks later. There was no proof Adrian Cross was a criminal. There was only a pattern of problems that vanished when they approached him. Emma opened the contract. The salary remained real. So did the tuition letter. So did Friday's deadline. She took out a red pen. By sunrise, the agreement was covered in notes. The next day, Emma called Dean Reed. Did Adrian Cross ask you to transfer me? The Cross Foundation offered to sponsor your tuition. That was not my question. A pause. He asked whether a seat could be made available. And you said yes. Your academic record qualifies you. It qualified me last year. The program is competitive, but money created a seat. Dean Reed did not answer. At 11:50 that night, Emma entered a small cafe 2 blocks north of Veluto. Adrian sat in the back corner with 2 untouched espressos. Without the suit jacket, he looked younger, though no less dangerous. Emma placed the contract on the table. Adrian studied the red markings. You edited it. I corrected it. She sat across from him. My class schedule stays under my control. You do not contact my professors, my dean, or my family without permission. He opened the contract. I receive a written job description, no personal errands, no social obligations unless they are paid work. I keep my apartment. You do not access my accounts or arrange employment for my parents. You assume I intended to. You control variables. My family is not one. Adrian turned another page. The resignation clause is removed, Emma said. I can leave with 2 weeks' notice. No. The answer came instantly. Then there is no agreement. You will have access to confidential matters. You cannot leave during an active assignment. That could mean anything. It means exactly what it says. It means you decide when I am free. Adrian closed the contract. Freedom is not a useful word in business. Obligation is more accurate. I am not one of your companies. No. His gaze held hers. You are far more valuable. The words brought back the chill she had felt when he said he wanted her. Why? For the first time, Adrian did not answer immediately. My grandfather came to Chicago with nothing he said. He spoke enough English to work, but not enough to understand the men cheating him. Language was power. The people who controlled meaning controlled everything else. Emma waited. You did more than translate for that couple. You understood embarrassment, pride, and trust. You knew what they needed before they asked. They needed help ordering dessert. They needed to feel they were not foolish. Emma remembered the husband's relieved laugh. Adrian was right. She disliked that he was right. I need someone who can hear what people mean, he said. Not only what they say. For restaurants, for all my businesses. What kind of confidential business? The kind you will understand when you are qualified to understand it. That is not reassuring. It is honest. Emma glanced at the contract. What happens if I refuse? You continue your life. Without my job. Yes. Without tuition. The university may still approve your aid. You know it will not happen before Friday. Yes. One opportunity. No meaningful alternative. Professor Brooks' words returned. Power arrives disguised as opportunity. 3 months, Emma said. Adrian remained still. I work for you for 3 months. After that, either of us can end the arrangement. 6. 4. 6. Emma reached for the contract. Adrian placed 2 fingers on the paper. The gesture was light. It stopped her anyway. 4 months, he said, with a review after 60 days. And my conditions, I will not contact your family or school without consent, unless there is an immediate threat to their safety. Emma almost laughed. That exception could cover anything. I prefer preparation to regret. The apartment remains mine. Yes. My accounts remain private. Yes. And personal requests. You may refuse them. If I say no, Adrian held her gaze. I will respect it. The answer mattered because men like Adrian Cross did not appear accustomed to accepting limits. Emma took the pen from her bag. She signed. Adrian signed beneath her name in the same controlled handwriting that appeared on the black card. Report to Cross Holdings at 9. I have class until 10:30, then report at 11. Emma stood. You still believe you won? Adrian said. I improved my position. That is not the same thing. It is enough. Outside the rain had stopped. Chicago shone beneath streetlights, every wet surface reflecting gold and white. Emma had tuition. She had a salary. She had protected the future she had spent years building. Still, the city felt different, as though every tower belonged to someone she had never noticed before. The next morning, she entered the lobby of Cross Holdings overlooking the Chicago River. Marble floors reflected her shoes. Security guards stood with the posture of men trained for more than checking identification. We have been expecting you, Ms. Carter, one of them said. A private key card carried her to the 41st floor. The elevator opened onto glass walls, dark wood, and a view that reduced traffic to silent patterns below. A woman in a charcoal suit waited beside the reception desk. Emma Carter. I am Evelyn Hart. She handed Emma a security badge. Mr. Cross values accuracy, punctuality, and discretion. In that order, accuracy first, discretion always. Evelyn led her to a smaller office beside Adrian's. Emma's name had already been engraved on the door. He ordered the sign before I accepted. Evelyn looked at it, then at Emma. Mr. Cross rarely prepares for outcomes he does not expect. At exactly noon, Adrian appeared in the doorway. He wore a navy suit and carried no folder. Bring your notebook, he said. Emma rose. What kind of meeting? Adrian waited until she stepped into the corridor. The kind where every word matters. The private elevator opened. Emma tightened her grip on the notebook and followed him inside. The elevator descended without a sound. Emma stood beside Adrian's notebook pressed against her ribs, watching the numbers change above the doors. 41, 38, 32. He said nothing. The silence between them felt deliberate, as if even the absence of words belonged to him. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To lunch." "With whom? A supplier?" "That sounds ordinary." Adrian glanced at her reflection in the polished steel. Ordinary men do not require private elevators. The doors opened into an underground garage where a black sedan waited with its engine running. Grant Mercer stood beside the rear door. He was broad-shouldered, clean-shaven, and dressed in a dark suit that concealed whatever he carried beneath it. His eyes moved over Emma with the impersonal attention of someone assessing risk. "Miss Carter," he said. "Mr. Mercer." Grant looked at Adrian. The room was checked twice. Adrian nodded and opened the car door for Emma. It should have felt courteous. Instead, it felt like another choice already made. The sedan moved west through downtown, passing glass towers and construction cranes before turning toward the warehouse district near the river. Emma watched the city through tinted windows. Chicago looked different from the back seat of Adrian Cross's car. Traffic lights seemed to change before they reached them. Loading zones were always clear. Men standing outside buildings straightened when the sedan passed. "You said this was a supplier meeting," Emma said. "It is. Why was the room checked?" "Because some suppliers are cautious, and some carry guns." Grant looked forward. Adrian's expression did not change. "Your job is to listen. That is not an answer. It is the only instruction you need." The restaurant occupied the ground floor of an old brick building with no sign outside. A man in a gray coat opened the door before they reached it. Inside, the dining room was empty. White tablecloths covered 6 tables. A fire burned beneath a stone mantel. The air smelled of rosemary wine and slow-cooked meat. An elderly man waited near the window. He had silver hair, a soft smile, and hands that appeared delicate until Emma noticed the thick scars across his knuckles. "Adrian." The two men embraced. Then the older man turned to Emma. "This must be the young woman." Adrian rested a hand near the center of Emma's back. Not touching, close enough that she felt the heat of his palm through her blouse. "Emma Carter," he said. "Samuel Hale." Samuel offered his hand. His grip was dry and firm. "You are Italian. My grandmother was." "From where near Florence?" Samuel's smile deepened. He asked the next question in Italian. Emma answered in the same language. His accent was not Tuscan. The vowels were heavier, the rhythm shaped by southern Italy and decades in Chicago. They sat. No menus were offered. Food arrived without being ordered. At first, the conversation remained harmless. Imported olive oil, delayed shipments, a restaurant opening in Milwaukee. Samuel complained about customs forms and inspectors who enjoyed creating problems. Emma took notes. Then the language changed, not the words themselves, the meaning beneath them. Samuel spoke of families who had respected the same routes for 30 years. He mentioned containers that should arrive without unnecessary attention. He referred to a new group demanding access to docks they had not earned. Adrian listened while cutting his veal. "What does Victor want?" he asked. Samuel spread his hands. "Victor wants what men like him always want. A larger chair at a table he did not build. He already has the south yards. He wants the river. He will not have it." Samuel looked at Emma. "Your assistant understands everything." Adrian took a slow drink of water. "She understands what is relevant." Samuel switched into a regional dialect Emma had heard only from her grandmother's neighbors when she was a child. "Beauty often hears more than men expect." Emma replied in the same dialect. "Only when men mistake silence for ignorance." Samuel stared at her. Then he laughed. The sound filled the private room. "She is dangerous." Adrian's gaze settled on Emma with quiet satisfaction. "I know. The hand at her back finally touched her, only for a second. A light pressure guiding her attention toward Samuel's next question. Emma kept her expression neutral, but the contact moved through her like a warning. Samuel discussed shipment dates, customs inspections, and payments routed through a logistics company owned by Cross Holdings. Everything sounded legal. Nothing felt legal. When the meeting ended, Samuel kissed Emma's hand. "You understand people," he said in English. "That is rarer than understanding language." Outside, Grant opened the car door. Emma waited until they were moving before speaking. "What was in the containers?" Adrian looked out the window. "Imported food." "What else?" "Nothing you need to handle." "That was not what I asked." "No." The answer came without apology. Emma closed her notebook. Samuel was not worried about olive oil. He worries about many things. He mentioned territory. So do restaurant owners. He mentioned respect between families. So do politicians. She studied his profile. "Do you enjoy making every answer sound reasonable?" "I enjoy accuracy. Accuracy requires facts. Facts require trust." Emma leaned back. "You hired me yesterday." "Yes." "And you already expect trust." "No, I expect discretion." The car stopped outside Cross Holdings. Adrian turned toward her. "Trust takes longer." For one moment, something almost personal entered his voice. Then the door opened and it disappeared. The rest of Emma's first week passed inside a world built from polished surfaces and locked cabinets. Evelyn taught her the administrative systems. Blue files contained ordinary business matters, lease agreements, payroll disputes, insurance renewals. Green files involved political donors, charitable foundations, and city permits. Red files remained inside a separate cabinet. Emma was not given a key. "Do not ask about them," Evelyn said. "That usually makes people ask. Curiosity is useful until it becomes visible." Evelyn spoke without drama, which made the warning more serious. Emma learned Adrian's schedule. Breakfast meetings with developers, lunches with union leaders, private calls with elected officials, evening dinners that appeared nowhere on the official calendar. 3 phones sat on his desk. One connected to Cross Holdings. One had no visible number. The third remained locked inside a drawer unless Grant entered the office. Emma noticed everything. She asked almost nothing. Adrian noticed that too. On Friday afternoon, he placed a contract on her desk. "Review this." Emma read it once. Then again. The agreement involved a construction company purchasing several buildings near the river. The language appeared standard, but the termination clause gave one party the ability to seize control if permits were delayed. "This clause is predatory," she said. Adrian stood behind her chair. "It is protective. It allows your company to take the property if the city delays approval for reasons outside the seller's control." The seller agreed. The seller either had terrible counsel or no real choice. Adrian's eyes remained on the page. "What would you change?" Emma rewrote the clause. She added a neutral review process and compensation for delays caused by city agencies. Adrian read the revision. "It weakens our position. It makes the agreement defensible. In court, in public." He looked at her. "That distinction matters to you. It should matter to you." A long silence passed. Then Adrian signed the revised version. Emma looked up. "You are accepting it. You gave me a better option." It was the first time he allowed her to change something that belonged to him. The victory was small. It stayed with her all evening. 2 days later, Emma's father called. "The union moved me to a supervisory crew," Michael said. "Less lifting. Better hours." Emma stopped in the middle of the grocery store. "When did that happen?" "This morning. Some developer needed experienced foremen." "What developer? Cross Construction?" Her hand tightened around the phone. "Dad, did you ask for that position?" "No. but I'm not stupid enough to reject it. After the call, Emma went directly to Adrian's apartment office on the top floor of Cross Holdings. He sat behind a dark wooden desk reviewing financial reports. "You arranged my father's new job." He did not deny it. His shoulder was injured. "You said you would not interfere with my family. I did not contact him. You contacted his union. I made a position available. That is interference. It is employment." Emma placed both hands on the desk. "You do not get to solve every problem in my life." Adrian closed the report. "Why not?" "Because they are mine. Pain does not become more honorable because you face it alone. That is not the point." "Then explain the point." "The point is that you keep changing my life without asking me." Adrian rose. The office seemed smaller when he stood close. "Your father is safer. Your tuition is paid. You have work suited to your abilities, and you believe that gives you the right to decide what I need." "No." His voice softened. "I believe seeing a problem and refusing to solve it is a form of cruelty." Emma stared at him. "That is how you justify control. That is how I justify responsibility. You are not responsible for me." Adrian moved closer. "Everything that affects you becomes relevant to me." Her pulse quickened. She hated how easily his presence altered the air between them. "I am your employee." His eyes moved to her mouth, then returned to her face. "That description is becoming less accurate." Emma stepped back. "You promised I could refuse personal requests. I have not made one. Not yet." A faint smile touched his lips. "Not yet." The invitation arrived the following week, a charity gala at the Art Institute. Emma found the envelope on her desk beside a garment bag. She carried both into Adrian's office. "You bought me a dress. I arranged appropriate clothing. I own clothing. Not for this event." "That sounds dangerously close to a personal judgment." Adrian looked up from his phone. "It is a professional requirement." "What am I doing there?" "Observing." "Who, everyone?" The dress was midnight blue, simple from the front, with a low back that made Emma feel exposed. She almost refused to wear it. Then she imagined entering a room full of powerful people in her second-hand black dress and understood exactly what Adrian meant. At 8 that evening, Grant drove her to the museum. Adrian waited beneath the stone steps. He wore a black tuxedo. For the first time since meeting him, Emma saw his control slip. Only slightly. His gaze moved over her and remained there too long. "You approve?" she asked. "You know I do." He offered his arm. Emma hesitated before taking it. Inside, music drifted through galleries filled with donors, politicians, judges, and executives. Every conversation carried two meanings: the spoken one, the useful one. Adrian introduced Emma as his associate, not his assistant. A federal judge asked about her law program. A state senator discussed immigrant business owners in his district. A union director complained about developers who treated labor as an obstacle. Emma listened. She connected names, interests, and grievances. Within an hour, she helped a restaurant owner meet an attorney who specialized in licensing. She introduced a community director to a developer looking for a tax credit project. People remembered her. More importantly, they trusted her. Adrian watched from across the room. When he joined her, he placed one hand at her waist. "You are enjoying yourself. I am working. You are enjoying the work." Emma could not deny it. She had spent years imagining power as something practiced in courtrooms. Here, decisions formed between champagne glasses and quiet introductions. "Rooms like this decide which cases ever reach court," Adrian said. "That should bother you. It bothers me when I am excluded." A man with silver hair approached them. He was handsome in the polished manner of someone who had never been forced to wait. "Adrian." The greeting contained no warmth. "Victor." Victor Kane turned to Emma. "So this is the woman everyone is discussing." Emma kept her expression calm. Everyone. Chicago becomes curious when Adrian Cross changes his habits. I did not realize hiring an assistant was news. Victor smiled. I expected someone decorative. Are you disappointed? Interested. Adrian's hand tightened slightly at her waist. Victor noticed. Careful, he said. Beautiful things break when held too tightly. Adrian's voice remained quiet. Only when handled by careless men. Victor raised his glass toward Emma. Powerful men often call a cage protection. Emma met his eyes, and men without power often call resentment wisdom. Victor laughed. Adrian chose well. He moved away into the crowd. Emma waited until he was out of hearing. What does he want? Everything that belongs to me. Does that include me? Adrian's jaw hardened. Stay close. The command irritated her. The concern beneath it did not. After the gala, Adrian dismissed the driver and took the wheel himself. Snow had begun to fall over Michigan Avenue, softening the city lights. Emma removed her heels and held them in her lap. Victor said I was being discussed. He wanted you unsettled. He succeeded. Adrian kept his eyes on the road. He controls part of the South Shipping District. His people have been pressing into routes my family has managed for decades. Managed legally. Some questions are safer when left unfinished. That is not how law works. It is how survival works. They stopped outside Emma's apartment building. Neither moved. Why was Victor interested in me? She asked. Because he wanted to know whether you matter. Do I? Adrian turned toward her. Streetlight moved across his face, leaving one side in shadow. You mattered the moment you looked at me and tried not to show fear. I was afraid. I know. I still am. Good. Emma frowned. Good fear keeps intelligent people alive. His hand rose slowly, giving her time to move. His fingers touched her jaw. The contact was warm and careful, nothing like the certainty in his eyes. You should go upstairs, Emma whispered. Yes. He did not move. Neither did she. When he kissed her, there was no hesitation. His mouth was controlled at first, then demanding as if restraint had only been a temporary courtesy. For one breath, Emma kissed him back. Then she pressed both hands against his chest. Adrian stopped. The sudden stillness between them felt more powerful than the kiss. Do not do that again unless I ask you, she said. His breathing remained steady, but the muscle in his jaw tightened. Then ask me soon. Emma opened the car door. She did not look back until she reached the building entrance. Adrian was still watching her. The photograph appeared beneath her door the next morning. Emma noticed the white corner against the dark wood. She picked it up. The image showed her leaving the gala with Adrian. A red circle surrounded her face. No note, no demand. Only proof that someone had followed her. She called Adrian. He arrived in 12 minutes with Grant and 2 security officers. Grant checked every room while Adrian studied the photograph. I am staying here, Emma said. No, you do not decide that. Someone entered a locked building and reached your door. I can call the police. You can. His expression told her what he thought of that protection. Grant returned from the bedroom. The fire escape camera was disabled. Adrian looked at Emma. You are coming with me. She wanted to refuse. Then she looked at the photograph again. An hour later, the sedan entered a private garage beneath a tower on the Gold Coast. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Michigan. Marble stretched beneath soft lighting. Every room was beautiful enough to feel untouched. Emma walked to the glass. She reached for the window handle. There was none. It does not open, Adrian said. It is beautiful. It is safe. It feels like a cage. A cage keeps danger outside. It also keeps people inside. Adrian stood behind her. He did not argue. Emma turned. I will stay until you identify the threat. Good. I am not finished. His expression sharpened. You do not enter my room without permission. You do not assign someone to follow me inside the building. You do not decide where I go unless there is a specific threat. I will assign security. They remain outside. That is not negotiable. Then neither is my cooperation. For several seconds, neither spoke. Adrian finally nodded. Outside your door, and I keep attending class. With a driver. With Grant. Adrian glanced toward him. Grant looked displeased. Emma smiled faintly. Those are my terms. Adrian stepped closer. Victor will treat you as mine, whether you accept the word or not. That is Victor's mistake. It becomes your problem when he puts a gun to your head. Emma held his gaze. And what happens when the man making every decision for me is the one standing closest? The words reached him. She saw it in the slight shift of his expression. For once, Adrian had no answer. 3 weeks passed. Security became routine. Grant drove Emma to class, waited outside Cross Holdings, and followed her into restaurants without appearing to watch the exits. Adrian did not kiss her again. The restraint became its own form of tension. Then came the dinner in Little Italy. The restaurant was small and family-owned, with red curtains, framed photographs, and the scent of garlic drifting from the kitchen. Adrian sat beside Emma at a long table with Samuel Hale and 4 men involved in a real estate project. The discussion moved between English and Italian. Emma took notes. Halfway through the main course, the front windows exploded. Glass flew across white tablecloths. Men in dark clothing entered with guns raised. Adrian pulled Emma from her chair and threw her behind an overturned table. Gunfire ripped through the dining room. Plates shattered. Someone screamed from the kitchen. Adrian drew a pistol from beneath his jacket. Stay down! Emma pressed herself against the floor. Smoke and dust filled the air. Footsteps approached from the far side of the table. A man rounded the corner. His gun pointed directly at her chest. He was older than she remembered, leaner, with a scar near his mouth. But the eyes were the same. Daniel. The gunman froze. Emma Carter. Across the restaurant, Adrian turned toward the sound of her name. Daniel lowered the barrel by an inch. You have no idea who you are working for. Emma slowly rose from behind the table, keeping both hands visible. Then explain it to me before everyone in this room dies. Daniel kept the gun trained on Emma. Around them, the restaurant had gone strangely quiet. Broken glass glittered across the floor. A chair burned near the front window where a candle had fallen into a linen napkin. Smoke drifted toward the ceiling, carrying the sharp smell of gunpowder garlic and spilled wine. Adrian remained behind an overturned table 10 feet away, his pistol aimed at Daniel's chest. 3 of Adrian's men held defensive positions near the kitchen. Daniel's people controlled the entrance. One nervous movement could start the shooting again. Emma looked into the face of the boy she once knew. Daniel Ward had lived 4 blocks from her parents. His mother made cabbage rolls for half the neighborhood. His younger sister had borrowed Emma's chemistry notes. Daniel had been smart-angry and always one bad decision away from disappearing. Now he stood in an expensive coat with blood on his collar and a gun in his hand. Lower it, Emma said. Daniel gave a humorless laugh. You think you can still tell me what to do? I think your hand is shaking. His grip tightened. So is yours. Emma looked down. He was right. She raised her hands higher. Then neither of us should make a sudden decision. Behind her, Adrian spoke. Move away from her. Daniel's eyes shifted toward him. You do not give orders here, Cross. Adrian's voice remained calm. You are pointing a weapon at someone who has nothing to do with this. Daniel looked back at Emma. That is where you are wrong. I work for him, Emma said. That does not make me part of your war. You walked into a private meeting with Samuel Hale. You sit beside Adrian Cross while men discuss routes, contracts, and territory. You are already part of it. Emma could feel Adrian watching her. Daniel was not wrong. That truth made the room colder. She changed languages. "Tell me what Victor wants," she said in Russian. Daniel's expression shifted. Several of his men exchanged confused looks. Adrian understood none of the words, but he understood the purpose. His gun lowered by a fraction. "You speak Russian now?" Daniel asked. "My college roommate was from St. Petersburg. Your mother made me practice when I visited." For the first time, memory softened his face. It lasted less than a second. "Victor wants payment for every truck moving through the South Corridor. Adrian says the route belongs to his family. His family does not own streets. Neither does Victor." Daniel's mouth tightened. "Victor controls the men who allow those trucks to pass, and Adrian controls the contracts that make the trucks worth stopping." Daniel looked toward the entrance. His men were growing restless. Emma followed his gaze. "How many people did Victor tell you would be inside?" Daniel did not answer. "He told you this would be a quick warning," Emma continued. "You expected guards, not families and restaurant workers. There should not have been civilians. But there are." A woman sobbed softly beneath a table near the wall. Daniel glanced toward the sound. Emma saw shame move through his face. "That was enough. He sent you into a room you did not understand," she said. "If you leave bodies behind, Victor calls it your failure. If you die, he replaces you. You do not know him. I know men who let other people take risks for them." Daniel looked at Adrian. "And he is different." Emma did not look away. "No." The answer surprised everyone, including Adrian. "But Adrian is here." Daniel said nothing. Emma took one slow step forward. His gun rose again. "Stop. I am stopping." She held his gaze. "Tell me what you need to walk away." "Territory." "That is not an answer. It is the only one." "No. Territory is what Victor says he wants." "What does your crew need?" Daniel stared at her. Emma continued before fear could stop her. "You need a route your trucks can use without being searched. You need a percentage large enough to prove Victor did not retreat. You need your men to leave this restaurant alive. And you need Adrian to understand that another violation will have consequences." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "You have been listening. It is my job." Adrian spoke from behind her. "Emma." She turned her head slightly. "Do not interrupt me." The silence that followed was almost absurd. No one spoke to Adrian Cross that way. Daniel's mouth twitched. Emma looked back at him. "What does Adrian need?" she asked. Daniel shrugged. "To own everything? No. He needs the route to remain reliable. He needs inspections controlled. He needs his contracts protected. And he needs Victor to stop using armed men in neighborhoods filled with civilians." Daniel laughed. "You think Cross cares about civilians? I think dead families attract police reporters and federal agents. So, yes, he cares." Adrian's expression remained unreadable. Emma lowered her hands slightly. 2 shipping windows each month." Daniel shook his head. 4. 2 with priority access during weather delays. 3 and no inspections. 3 with inspections handled by a neutral company. There is no neutral company. There is if both sides own equal shares. Daniel considered it. Adrian spoke in English. "What is he asking?" Emma answered without turning. 3 shipping windows each month and protection from inspections. No. Daniel understood the tone, if not the words. His finger shifted near the trigger. Emma looked sharply at Adrian. "You told me to listen. Now listen to me." A muscle moved in Adrian's jaw. Emma translated the proposal. Adrian rejected the number. Daniel demanded a larger percentage. For the next several minutes, Emma moved between languages and between men who had spent their lives treating compromise as weakness. She stripped every demand down to its real purpose. Adrian did not need every shipping date. He needed consistency. Daniel did not need control of the route. He needed proof that Victor had gained something. The agreement formed slowly. 3 shipping windows each month. A legitimate logistics company owned equally by both organizations. Independent inspections conducted by a firm chosen through mutual consent. No weapons transported through residential areas. Financial penalties for delays or interference. Future disputes handled through a meeting before any retaliation. Daniel looked at her. You expect people like us to respect a contract? Emma's voice remained steady. I expect men who call themselves businessmen to understand the cost of breaking one. Adrian lowered his gun first. The movement changed the room. His men followed. Daniel hesitated, then lowered his weapon. The breath Emma had been holding left her body. Confirm it, she said. Daniel frowned. What? Confirm the terms in front of your men. You do not trust me, I barely recognize you. Pain flickered across his face. He repeated the agreement in Russian. Emma translated it into English. Adrian confirmed each condition. Daniel holstered his gun. His men began moving toward the entrance. Before leaving, Daniel stopped beside Emma. You should get away from him. Emma glanced toward Adrian. That advice would carry more weight if you had not pointed a gun at me. Daniel looked ashamed. I did not know it was you. That should not matter. His eyes moved toward the terrified civilians. No, he said quietly. It should not. He stepped closer. Victor will not honor this forever. Then you should decide who you want standing beside you when he breaks it. Daniel studied her, then walked away. The door closed behind the last gunman. For several seconds, no one moved. Then the restaurant erupted. Someone shouted for an ambulance. A cook rushed from the kitchen with towels. One of Adrian's men cursed as Samuel Hale examined a wound along his arm. Emma looked down. Blood covered the front of her dress. Her hands moved quickly over her body. She found no wound. The blood belonged to someone else. Adrian crossed the room. He seized her shoulders, turning her toward the light. Where are you hurt? I am not. There is blood on you. It is not mine. His hands moved over her arms, her waist, the back of her neck. The control she had always associated with him was gone. Adrian. Did he touch you? No. Did he threaten you? He had a gun. I saw that. His voice broke on the final word. Emma went still. Adrian pulled her against him. The embrace was not graceful or possessive. It was desperate. His hand pressed against the back of her head. His heart struck hard beneath her cheek. You stood in front of him, he said. I was already in front of him. You moved closer, so he would listen. He could have killed you. So could you if the shooting started again. Adrian pulled back. His face was pale beneath the restaurant lights. You negotiated while a weapon was pointed at your chest. You hired me because I understand people. I did not hire you to die for me. Emma looked at the overturned tables and shattered windows. I was not doing it for you. The words hurt him. She saw that too. I was doing it for everyone in the room. Adrian's hands remained on her shoulders. You saved them. I delayed a larger problem. Samuel approached with a towel tied around his arm. Your young woman has more sense than all of us. Emma looked at Adrian. I am not his young woman. Samuel gave her a tired smile. Then he should correct that before someone else does. Adrian did not respond. Grant appeared beside them. Cars are ready. Police response has been redirected to the east entrance. We need to leave. Emma looked at him. Redirected. Grant held her gaze for half a second too long. Then he turned toward Adrian. We have less than 3 minutes. In the sedan, Emma sat beside Adrian while Grant drove through back streets. No one spoke. Adrenaline drained from her body, leaving her cold and exhausted. Her hands would not stop shaking. Adrian removed his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. She did not refuse. When they reached the penthouse, he poured a glass of whiskey. The bottle struck the rim. Only slightly. Enough for Emma to notice. She sat on the sofa. Tell me everything. Adrian remained at the bar. You need rest. I need the truth. You had a gun pointed at you less than an hour ago, and I still know less than everyone else in that room. He drank the whiskey. Emma waited. Finally, Adrian set the glass down. My grandfather arrived in Chicago in 1968. He worked construction until a contractor refused to pay him and 12 other immigrants. Emma said nothing. They went to the police. Nothing happened. They went to the union. Nothing happened. My grandfather gathered the men and collected the money himself. How Adrian looked at her. You already know. She did. He built influence through labor transportation and protection. Over time, the system became larger than the problem it was created to solve. And you inherited it. I inherited companies' obligations, alliances, and enemies. You also inherited criminal operations. Yes. The single word settled between them. Emma had known. Hearing him admit it changed something. What kind? Gambling? Untaxed shipments, protection agreements, political payments, drugs. Not through my routes, weapons, not through residential areas. That is not the same as no, no. Emma looked toward the windows. The city spread beneath them in thousands of lights. How many people have you killed? Adrian's expression closed. That is not relevant. It is to me. I have ordered actions that resulted in death. The room seemed to lose sound. Emma forced herself to breathe. You say that like a business report. If I say it differently, the facts remain the same. Do you regret it? Some. Not all, no. His honesty made her stomach turn. Adrian moved toward the window but kept his distance from her. The men waiting to replace me do not have limits. Victor moves narcotics near schools. He uses trafficking to collect debt. He sends men into restaurants filled with families. That does not make you good. No. His reflection looked back at her from the glass. It makes me better than what comes after me. Emma stood. You brought me into this without telling me. I brought you into Cross Holdings. You placed me at a table where criminal territory was being discussed. I believed you would understand enough to be useful and not enough to be involved. That ended tonight. Yes. The agreement she had negotiated now connected her to both organizations. She was no longer merely someone who had overheard a secret. She had shaped one. What happens if the police learn what I did? They will not. You cannot promise that. I can. That is exactly the kind of answer that terrifies me. Adrian turned. You should be terrified. For once, the warning was not a method of control. It was an admission. The penthouse doors opened. Grant entered with Evelyn behind him. Evelyn's face tightened when she saw the blood on Emma's dress. Your parents are safe, Grant said. Emma stared at him. What happened to my parents? 2 men were seen outside their house this afternoon. They have been moved to a secure property near Lake Geneva. Emma turned toward Adrian. You moved them. It was necessary. You promised not to interfere. I promised not to involve them unless there was an immediate threat. You decided that without telling me. There was no time. There is always time to call me. Not when the decision affects whether your mother opens a door to an armed man. Emma crossed the room. You do not get to use danger as permission to control every person I love. Adrian did not step back. I will use every resource I have to keep them alive, even if they hate you. Yes, even if I hate you. Something moved behind his eyes. Yes. Emma's phone rang. Her mother. She answered immediately. Mom. We are fine, Laura said. Her voice trembled despite the words. A man named Grant sent people. They showed us photographs of the men outside. Where are you? A house near the lake. Your father is arguing with the security system. In the background, Michael complained that no normal door required 3 locks. Emma closed her eyes. Did anyone hurt you? No. Emma, what is happening? She looked at Adrian. He stood beneath the city lights waiting for her answer. I do not know yet. That was the most honest thing she could say. After the call, Evelyn took Emma to the guest room and found clothes for her. Emma showered until the water ran clear. When she returned to the living room, dawn had begun whitening the edge of the lake. Adrian sat alone. His tie was gone. His sleeves were rolled to his elbows. A pistol rested on the table beside him. You should sleep, Emma said. So should you. Neither moved. Adrian looked at the weapon. I can send you away. Emma said nothing. Grant can arrange a new apartment security and enough money to finish school. You would never have to see me again. Would Victor stop looking for me now? Would my parents remain targets for a time? So I cannot leave. You can. Not safely. No. Emma walked toward him. Then stop calling that a choice. Adrian's eyes lifted to hers. I do not know how to give you something I cannot guarantee. Start with the truth. I have given it, not all of it. She placed the agreement from the restaurant on the table. Grant had written the terms from memory. If I stay, I see everything. Adrian's face hardened. No. No more coded files. No more meetings where I am expected to understand only half the conversation. No more decisions about my family without speaking to me. The information would make you more vulnerable. I am already vulnerable. It would make you responsible. I became responsible the moment I negotiated for you. You negotiated to save lives. And now Victor's men believe I speak for you. Adrian stood. You do not understand what you are asking. Then explain it. You would know names, routes, payments, and weaknesses. If law enforcement questioned you, silence would become a crime. If Victor captured you, information would become a weapon. If one of my own men believed you might leave, you would become a threat. Emma felt the fear beneath each word. Not fear of what she might do, fear of what his world might do to her. I need authority equal to the risk. Adrian studied her. What are your terms? No violence when negotiation can solve the problem. That is not always possible. Then you explain why before acting. I cannot hold a meeting during an attack. I am not asking you to. She stepped closer. My family is not moved, watched, or employed without my knowledge. My education remains mine. My work must include access to every legitimate company connected to Cross Holdings. And the illegitimate ones, I need enough access to know when legal work is being used to hide something criminal. That could expose you. Keeping me ignorant almost got me killed. Adrian's gaze lowered to her mouth, then returned to her eyes. And us. The question was quieter than the others. Emma's pulse changed. You do not touch me when I say no. I stopped. You did. And if you say yes, Emma thought of the kiss outside her apartment. The answer frightened her more than the gun had. Then it will be my decision. Adrian held out his hand. Partner Emma looked at it. This was not equality, not yet. But it was more power than she had possessed the night he placed a black card beside the register. She took his hand. "Do not make me regret it." His fingers closed around hers. "I already regret putting you in that restaurant. That was not what I meant." "I know." Over the following weeks, the red cabinet opened. Emma learned how Cross Holdings connected to dozens of smaller companies. She reviewed leases, shipping agreements, political donations, and labor contracts. Some documents were legitimate. Others existed to make money difficult to trace. Grant distrusted her involvement. "You ask too many questions," he said one evening. Emma looked up from a stack of financial reports. "You answer too few. My job is to keep Adrian alive. My job is to keep him out of prison." Grant leaned against the door. "And if those goals conflict, then we have a larger problem." Her first real test came when federal auditors requested records from Cross Construction. Grant wanted to delay the response. Adrian wanted to submit only what the government had specifically requested. Emma found the inconsistency before either man saw it. A subcontractor had billed the company twice for the same labor crews. The duplicate payments passed through a shell company linked to one of Victor's associates. If the auditors found it first, Cross Holdings would appear involved in fraud. Emma prepared a full disclosure, removed the subcontractor, and attached evidence showing that Cross Construction had been deceived. Adrian read the report. "This will cost us $2 million. It may save the company. It also exposes a weakness. It exposes Victor's theft." Grant looked at Adrian. "She is right." Emma glanced at him. It was the first time Grant had said those words. The auditors accepted the disclosure. The investigation shifted toward Victor's shell company. That evening, Adrian found Emma alone in her office. "You protected us without lying. I used the truth strategically." A faint smile appeared. "You are learning. I am changing the rules." He stood beside her desk. "Ask me." Emma looked up. "Ask you what?" His eyes moved to her mouth. The memory of their agreement passed between them. Emma rose slowly. "Kiss me." Adrian's hand touched her face. This time, he waited. When she leaned toward him, his control broke. The kiss carried everything they had not said since the restaurant. Fear, anger, hunger, and the dangerous relief of being understood. Emma knew exactly who he was now. She also knew what staying beside him might cost. She kissed him anyway. 6 months later, Emma sat at the penthouse breakfast table reviewing a union contract. A small velvet box rested beside her coffee. She opened it. Inside was a diamond ring. Adrian continued reading the newspaper. "Is this supposed to be a proposal?" she asked. "You dislike public performances. I also dislike discovering that I'm engaged through table decoration." He lowered the paper. "Then say no." There was no threat in his voice. No closing restaurant. No tuition deadline. No manipulated alternative. For the first time since Adrian Cross entered her life, the choice in front of Emma belonged entirely to her. She lifted the ring. "You did not ask." Adrian folded the newspaper and set it aside. "Emma Carter, will you marry me? Because I am useful." "Yes." She narrowed her eyes. "Adrian, because you are useful. Because you challenge me. Because you walk into rooms filled with armed men and make them listen. Because every part of my life feels incomplete when you are not standing in it." His voice remained controlled. His eyes did not. Emma slid the ring onto her finger. "I am saying yes because I choose to." Adrian reached across the table. "I know." She placed her hand in his. Months earlier, Emma had believed the most dangerous moment of her life was hearing Adrian Cross say he wanted her. She understood now that the greater danger had begun when she realized she wanted him too. The ring changed the way people looked at Emma. At Lakefront University, Classmates who had once borrowed her notes now watched the black sedan waiting outside the law building. Professors paused when Adrian Cross appeared at public lectures. Strangers recognized the diamond on Emma's hand before they recognized her face. Nothing about the ring felt private. It was a promise between two people, but in Adrian's world, promises were also declarations of territory. Emma learned to live with the attention. She did not hide the engagement, but she refused to let it consume the work she had begun long before Adrian entered her life. For the next 4 months, she studied before sunrise, attended evening lectures, and spent her afternoons reviewing contracts at Cross Holdings. Grant drove her between the university and the office. Evelyn placed meals on her desk when Emma forgot to eat. Adrian rarely interrupted her while she studied. He would enter the penthouse library after midnight, remove his jacket, and sit across from her with his own files. Sometimes an entire hour passed without either of them speaking. Those quiet nights surprised Emma most. Adrian controlled meetings, companies, and men who carried weapons beneath tailored suits. Yet when she worked, he gave her silence. One evening, Emma looked up from a book on professional responsibility. "You are staring at me." Adrian sat in the armchair by the window, a glass of whiskey untouched beside him. "I am observing. That is what people say when they are staring. You bite the inside of your cheek when you disagree with a legal opinion." Emma closed the book. "You noticed that I notice everything you do. That sounds less romantic when you say it like a threat." Adrian leaned back. "It was not intended as either." Emma studied him. "Why have you not asked me to move into your bedroom?" His eyes sharpened. "You asked for a separate room. That was months ago. You have not changed the condition. You could have asked. I already took too many things before you offered them." The answer quieted her. Adrian Cross did not apologize often. He changed his behavior and left Emma to recognize the apology inside it. She stood and crossed the room. He watched her approach without moving. Emma stopped between his knees. "I am changing the condition." His hand settled at her waist, but he waited. She touched his face. "Take me to our room." The word "our" altered something in his expression. Adrian rose and kissed her with a restraint that lasted only until Emma pulled him closer. The following morning, her books remained open on the library table. Neither of them mentioned that she had not returned to the guest room. Graduation arrived beneath a clear June sky. Rows of black robes filled the university courtyard. Emma sat between classmates discussing clerkships, corporate firms, and public defense offices. She should have felt only pride. Instead, she felt the weight of every version of herself that had fought to reach this day. The girl who studied at a kitchen table while her mother cleaned offices at night. The waitress who hid her Italian. The woman who stood in a ruined restaurant and negotiated with a gun pointed at her chest. All of them walked toward the stage when her name was called. Emma Rose Carter. Applause rose from the audience. Her mother stood first. Her father followed, lifting both hands above his head as if Emma had won a championship. Adrian remained seated for 1 second longer. Then he stood. He did not shout. He did not smile widely. He looked at Emma with a pride so direct that she nearly missed the hand reaching out to give her the diploma. After the ceremony, Michael Carter pulled his daughter into an embrace. "My lawyer," he said. "Not yet. I still have to pass the bar." "You will." Laura kissed Emma's cheek. "You look tired." "I just graduated." "You looked tired before the ceremony." Adrian approached with Grant several steps behind him. Michael shook Adrian's hand with the careful firmness of a father still deciding what kind of man his daughter intended to marry. "You came," Emma said. Adrian looked offended. "Did you believe I would not?" "There were security concerns." "There are always security concerns." He touched the edge of her graduation hood. Nothing would have kept me away. Emma's parents heard the sincerity in his voice. Laura's expression softened. Michael's did not, though he released Adrian's hand with slightly less suspicion. That evening, the four of them ate dinner at Veluto. Emma had not returned since the night she first heard Adrian say he wanted her. The restaurant looked the same. Warm chandeliers, white marble, crystal glasses catching soft light. Yet Emma no longer felt invisible inside it. The manager greeted her by name. Servers stepped aside as she passed. She remembered cheap shoes, aching feet, and a black card waiting beside the register. Adrian noticed where she was looking. "Do you regret that night?" he asked quietly. Emma looked toward the corner table where he had first watched her. "I regret that you believed rearranging my life was an acceptable introduction. It was effective. It was arrogant." "Yes." She turned to him. "You admit that now I knew it then." Emma laughed despite herself. After dinner, Adrian gave her a leather briefcase. Inside were 3 employment contracts: General Counsel for Cross Restaurants, Legal Advisor for Cross Real Estate, Director of Compliance for every legitimate company owned by Cross Holdings. Emma read the 3rd contract twice. "This position gives me authority to inspect every account." "Yes." "And question every executive." "Yes, including you." Adrian took a drink of wine. "That is why you will choose it." Emma closed the briefcase. "You already know my answer." "I know you." She accepted the compliance position. 2 months later, she passed the Illinois bar examination. The official notice arrived at the penthouse shortly after sunrise. Emma opened the envelope with shaking hands. Adrian watched from across the kitchen. "Well?" he asked. She read the first line again. "I passed." He crossed the room before she finished speaking. His arms closed around her, lifting her from the floor. Emma laughed into his shoulder. Adrian buried his face against her hair. "I knew you would. You sound like my father. Your father is an intelligent man." When he set her down, his expression changed. "I love you." The words came without ceremony. Emma went still. Adrian had shown love through protection, attention, and acts of control he had slowly learned to restrain. He had never spoken it directly. She touched the front of his shirt. "Say it again. I love you." Emma searched his face. "I love you too." His hand covered hers. "But love does not remove accountability," she said. A faint smile appeared. "I would expect nothing less from my compliance director." Their wedding took place in October. The cathedral stood near the heart of Chicago, surrounded by stone buildings and streets cleared hours before the ceremony. Security officers checked every entrance. Guests passed through metal detectors hidden behind floral displays. Judges sat near union leaders. Restaurant owners greeted city officials. Men whose names appeared on charitable boards exchanged quiet nods with men whose names appeared in sealed investigations. Emma waited in a private room with her mother. Her dress was simple compared with the gowns Adrian's associates had suggested: ivory silk-fitted sleeves and a long veil that had belonged to her grandmother. Laura adjusted the fabric over Emma's shoulder. "You can still walk away." Emma met her eyes in the mirror. "Are you hoping I will?" "I am hoping. You know you can." Emma looked down at the ring Adrian had given her. "He gave me a real choice. After making sure you understood how difficult every other choice would be." That was true at the beginning. And now Emma thought of Adrian signing over authority to her. She thought of the red files, the auditors, and the night he stopped at the pressure of her hands. Now he listens. Laura remained quiet. "Are you safe with him, safer than I am without him?" "That is not the same as being free." "No." Emma turned from the mirror. But I am not the woman he first brought into his office. I know what he is. I know what this life costs. I am walking toward him with my eyes open. Laura touched her cheek. Then make him worthy of the choice. The cathedral doors opened. Michael waited beside the aisle. His eyes filled when he saw Emma. "You look like your grandmother," he whispered. He walked her toward Adrian. Adrian stood beneath the high stone arches in a black suit. His posture was steady, but his eyes remained fixed on Emma with an intensity that made the crowded cathedral disappear. When Michael placed Emma's hand in his, Adrian held it carefully. Not as though taking possession, as though receiving something entrusted to him. His voice broke once during the vows. Only Emma noticed. At the reception, Adrian's associates offered toasts about loyalty, family, and legacy. Politicians praised the Cross Foundation. Judges spoke politely about Emma's intelligence. Beneath every formal word, alliances shifted. Emma could feel them forming around her new name, Mrs. Emma Cross. It opened doors that Emma Carter had spent years knocking on. Within weeks, she received invitations to legal committees, development boards, and private dinners. People who refused to speak directly with Adrian now asked for meetings with her. Some saw Emma as a safer path to Cross Holdings. Others believed she could influence Adrian without carrying the visible weight of his reputation. They were both correct. Emma used that access carefully. She established a compliance team staffed by attorneys and forensic accountants. She required written labor agreements for every construction project. She created a community investment fund for neighborhoods affected by cross developments. Adrian's older associates resisted. One afternoon, 6 men sat around the conference table while Emma presented a new policy requiring independent review of property acquisitions. A senior executive named Raymond Cole leaned back in his chair. "With respect, Mrs. Cross, this company existed before you joined it." Emma closed the report in front of her. "And several of its practices will not exist after today." Raymond looked toward Adrian. "You are allowing this." Adrian sat at the head of the table. "You are asking the wrong person." Raymond's face reddened. Emma continued. "Every purchase requires documented consent, market-based compensation, and outside legal review. That will slow development. It will prevent lawsuits. It will cost us opportunities. It will remove opportunities that depend on frightened people signing documents they do not understand." Raymond stared at her. "That is how this city works." Emma held his gaze. "Then this part of the city is changing." After the meeting, Grant followed her into the corridor. "You made enemies in that room. They were already enemies. They were simply being polite. You cannot change everything at once. I am not trying to change everything." Grant looked back toward the conference room. "What are you trying to change?" "The things I am being asked to defend." Her first major conflict arrived 3 months later. Emma discovered a group of apartment buildings purchased through a Cross subsidiary. Elderly owners had sold below market value after receiving repeated notices about invented building violations. Several families claimed men had visited their homes at night. The documents carried Raymond Cole's approval. Emma brought the files to Adrian. He read them in silence. "How long has this been happening?" she asked. "Before you joined the company." "That was not my question." Adrian placed the file on his desk. "Several years. And you knew I knew Cole acquired difficult properties. You knew how I did not ask for details." Emma felt something cold open inside her. "You taught me that refusing to solve a problem can be cruelty." Adrian's expression tightened. "This is not the same. It is exactly the same. These properties were necessary for a larger development. So the owners became obstacles. They were compensated. They were threatened." Adrian rose. "I will remove Cole from the project. That is not enough. What do you want full compensation based on current value?" "Legal fees. The option for every displaced tenant to return after construction. That will cost millions." "Yes." "It will delay the project." "Yes." It may expose us to investigation. Emma stepped closer. If we hide it, I am not reforming anything. I am decorating it. Adrian's face became unreadable. You would turn over your own company's records. I would turn over Raymond Cole. He has been loyal to my family for 20 years. He used your name to frighten old people. Adrian looked toward the windows. For a long time, neither spoke. Then he pressed the intercom. Send Grant in. Grant entered moments later. Adrian handed him the file. Remove Cole from every company account. Collect his records. No one speaks to him until Emma finishes the review. Grant looked from Adrian to Emma. Understood. The decision cost Cross Holdings nearly $8 million. Raymond Cole was charged with fraud, extortion, and conspiracy. Several older associates blamed Emma. At a private meeting, one of them accused her of betraying the organization. Adrian rose before Emma could respond. No one touches my wife, he said. No one threatens her staff, and no one mistakes her conscience for weakness. The room became silent. Emma watched him. He had protected her many times. This was different. Adrian was not protecting her from an outside enemy. He was protecting the limits she had placed on his own power. Later that night, Emma found him alone in the study. You lost people today. I lost men who believed loyalty excused incompetence. Raymond was not incompetent. No. Adrian poured a drink. He was cruel. Emma approached him. You could have stopped me. I considered it. What changed your mind? He looked at her. You did. The answer should have satisfied her. Instead, it frightened her. What happens if I am wrong someday? Then I will tell you. And if you are wrong, you already tell me. Emma took the glass from his hand and set it aside. That is not equality. No, Adrian said. It is marriage. The federal pressure began quietly. Judge Rebecca Sloan requested lunch at a private club near the courthouse. Emma knew her through legal committees and charitable work. Rebecca was respected, disciplined, and careful about every public association. She did not order wine. That told Emma the meeting was serious. A task force is examining construction contracts throughout Cook County, Rebecca said. Emma kept her hands still beneath the table. Cross Holdings complies with all current reporting requirements. I am not speaking as a judge. Then how are you speaking as someone who does not want to watch a promising attorney lose everything? Emma looked around the dining room. No one appeared close enough to hear. What have they found? Your name appears in financial records, meeting schedules, and communications involving several people under investigation. My name appears because I am General Compliance Counsel. It also appears beside Victor Kane's. Emma thought of the gallery and Victor's warning about cages. I met him regarding import regulations. The government may see it differently. Do you believe I am committing crimes? Rebecca studied her. I believe you are standing close enough to crime that the law may stop recognizing the distance. Emma sat back. My work has prevented fraud, protected tenants, and reduced violence. That may all be true. But good intentions do not create immunity. Rebecca placed a business card on the table. There was no name on it, only a number. If anyone from the task force contacts you, call this attorney before you answer. Emma looked at the card. It reminded her of another card placed in front of her years earlier. That one had opened a door. This one looked like an exit. She slipped it into her purse. Adrian was waiting when she returned to the office. What did Sloan want? Emma removed her coat. You had me followed, no. She informed me of the meeting. Why? Because she does not want photographs of my wife entering a private club with a federal judge to become public without context. Emma placed the card on his desk. A task force is investigating construction contracts. Adrian read the number. I know. You knew and did not tell me. I learned yesterday. You had an entire day. I was confirming the scope. Emma laughed once without humor. You still believe information belongs to you until you decide I am ready for it. I believed panic would help no one. Do I look panicked? No. I look angry. Yes. Good. She leaned over the desk. I will review every company under investigation. I want complete records including the accounts you normally keep outside Cross Holdings. That would expose operations unrelated to the inquiry. It would expose me to prison if I sign a false statement. Adrian's expression hardened. You will not go to prison. You cannot solve a federal prosecution with security guards. I know. For once, the admission contained no false certainty. Emma straightened. Then trust me to protect both of us. He opened the locked drawer beside his desk. The third phone rested inside. Beneath it was a small brass key. Adrian placed the key in her palm. All records, he said. Emma closed her fingers around it. Trust in Adrian's world did not arrive as a declaration. It arrived as access to the things that could destroy him. Victor Kane requested a meeting 2 weeks later. Emma chose a restaurant crowded enough to discourage violence and private enough to protect conversation. Victor arrived alone. That is a beautiful ring, he said. You did not invite me here to discuss jewelry. No, I wanted to see whether marriage made you softer. Emma unfolded her napkin. Has it? Victor smiled. It made you more confident. Confidence is not softness. No, but love creates blind spots. Emma watched him. What do you want assistance with import licenses? Submit the documents to my office. These licenses involve shipments Adrian would prefer not to support. Then I will not support them. Victor leaned forward. I can give you evidence that protects you from the federal investigation. Emma did not react. What evidence records showing that several payments attributed to Cross Holdings were arranged by Raymond Cole without Adrian's knowledge? You want me to believe you are helping us. I am helping you. There is no difference. There should be. Victor's voice softened. You had a life before Adrian. I remember it. He selected your weaknesses, removed your alternatives, and placed himself at the center of every solution. Emma's jaw tightened. You have spent too much time studying my marriage. I study leverage. I am not leverage. You are the reason he changes decisions. That makes me influential. It makes you a target. Victor placed a small drive on the table. Take it. What is on it? A reminder that Adrian Cross has not told you everything. Emma did not touch the drive. What do you want in return? Access to 2 northern shipping routes. No. You have not seen the files. I do not need to. Victor leaned back. You keep insisting that you chose this life because you need that belief to survive it. Emma held his gaze. I chose to meet you without Adrian's permission. I choose to refuse you now. She stood. Victor's smile disappeared. Power always sends a bill. Emma left the drive on the table. That evening she told Adrian everything Victor had offered. Adrian listened without interruption. You should have taken it, he said. Emma stared at him. You believe the drive was real. I believe Victor wanted us to wonder. Is there something you have not told me about Raymond? There are many things I did not know because I chose not to ask. That answer is becoming familiar. I am correcting it. Emma looked toward the locked cabinet now opened by the brass key. You understand why his words work. Yes. Because part of them is true. Adrian crossed the room. I did take advantage of your circumstances. You did. I believed giving you what you needed justified how I brought you to me. It did not. No. His hand lifted but stopped before touching her. Emma closed the remaining distance. I stayed after I learned the truth. Yes. That does not erase the beginning. No. But it changes the ending. Adrian touched her face. We have not reached it. Emma rested her hand over his. Then do not make me fight you while I am fighting everyone else. I will try. It was not a grand promise. It was honest. Her parents visited the estate in Lake Forest in early December. Snow covered the grounds beyond the security fence. Guards monitored the road from a small building near the gate. Michael examined the locks with professional interest. Laura watched Emma. During dinner, Adrian and Michael discussed a hospital construction project. For once, the conversation involved no hidden meanings. Afterward, Laura followed Emma into the kitchen. You check the windows before you sit down, she said. Emma continued arranging cups. It is habit. It is fear. It is awareness. Laura touched her daughter's wrist. Are you happy? Emma looked toward the dining room where Adrian was laughing at something Michael had said. I am useful. That was not my question. No. Emma leaned against the counter. I am not happy every day. Some days I am angry. Some days I am afraid. But I have purpose. I have influence. And love. Yes. Laura searched her face. Does he love you enough to let you disagree with him? He does now. Then make sure you never stop. On the drive back to the city, Adrian was quiet. You heard us, Emma said. I heard part of it. My mother believes you are dangerous. She is correct. She also believes I might lose myself. Adrian looked through the windshield. Do you... sometimes? His hand found hers between the seats. If I ever ask you to become smaller, leave. Emma turned toward him. You would let me... His fingers tightened. No, that is not reassuring. It is the truth. Weeks later, Adrian entered Emma's office after midnight. She was reviewing evidence connected to the federal inquiry. He closed the door. Victor is recruiting men from outside Chicago. Emma looked up. For the shipping routes. For everything. What does Grant think that Victor is preparing for war? Emma removed her glasses. And what do you think I think we need to decide what kind of future we are protecting? Adrian sat across from her. I want a family. Emma's breath paused. You want to discuss children while Victor is recruiting gunmen. I want a reason to end what my grandfather began. A child is not a reason. A child is a person. I know. Do you want a child or an heir? A child. The answer came immediately. Our child. Someone who grows up knowing both our families, both languages, and every path available beyond this world. Emma studied him. What if that child wants nothing to do with Cross Holdings? Then we build a life where leaving is possible. Inherited obligations are not easy to escape. No. Adrian leaned forward. But we can give our child something neither of us had. A meaningful choice. Yes. Emma thought of the cathedral, the locked files, and the woman she had become. If we do this, the most dangerous operations end. Adrian's expression became still. No narcotics. No weapons. No protection payments hidden as legitimate contracts. We reduce every criminal operation until Cross Holdings can survive without them. That will create enemies. We already have enemies. It will also create weakness. It will create a future. Adrian watched her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Agreed. 6 weeks later, Emma sat on the edge of the marble bathtub holding a pregnancy test. 2 lines. Her hands trembled. The bathroom door opened. Adrian stopped when he saw her face. He crossed the room slowly. Emma. She held out the test. You are going to be a father. For 1 second, Adrian did not move. Then he knelt. His hands settled carefully at her waist. He rested his forehead against her stomach, though there was nothing to feel yet. Our child. Emma touched his hair. Our child. A sound escaped him somewhere between laughter and disbelief. He looked up at her with an openness she had never seen. The bedroom door opened beyond the bathroom. Grant's voice cut through the moment. "Adrian." He would never have entered without urgency. Adrian rose. Grant stood near the doorway holding a white envelope. It was delivered to the office by courier. No return address. Emma took it before Adrian could stop her. Inside was a photograph. She recognized the medical building in the background. The image showed Emma leaving her doctor's office that morning. A red circle surrounded her stomach. On the back, Victor had written a single sentence. "Give me the ports, or your child inherits a funeral." Adrian read the words. The tenderness disappeared from his face. His hand moved beneath his jacket. Emma closed her fingers around his wrist. "No, he threatened our child." His voice no longer sounded human. Emma held the photograph between them. "Then we end him." Adrian looked into her eyes. She did not release his wrist, but we end him my way. Emma did not sleep that night. The photograph remained on the desk beneath the light, Victor's message facing upward. "Give me the ports, or your child inherits a funeral." Adrian stood near the windows with Grant speaking in voices too low for Emma to hear. Men entered and left the penthouse. Phones rang. Security officers checked doors that had already been checked twice. The entire building seemed to tighten around her. Adrian wanted names, vehicles, addresses, and weapons prepared before sunrise. Emma wanted records. At 3 a.m, she carried 3 boxes from the secure office into the dining room and spread their contents across the table. Shipping schedules, insurance policies, customs reports, city contracts, property records, lists of companies connected to Victor Kane. Adrian ended his call and looked at the papers. "What are you doing?" "Finding the part of Victor's empire that cannot survive without permission. He threatened our child." "I know. He will not live long enough to do it again." Emma looked up. "That is what he wants." Adrian's face became still. "He wants you angry. Angry men become predictable. You attack him. His soldiers attack us, and Chicago spends the next year burying people who never chose either side. He photographed you outside a medical office. And if you start a war tonight, every person connected to us becomes a target tomorrow." Grant stood beside Adrian, silent but attentive. Emma placed the photograph at the center of the table. "Victor believes power begins with fear. We are going to show him that power begins with dependence." Adrian approached the table. "What do you need?" "Everything we know about his companies. You already have most of it. I need the records we do not admit exist." Grant looked at Adrian. Emma noticed the exchange. "No more protected rooms," she said. "No more deciding what I am allowed to know." Adrian studied her face. "You are carrying our child. That does not make me fragile. It makes every risk unacceptable." Emma pressed both palms against the table. "You cannot protect me by making me useless." A long silence passed. Then Adrian looked at Grant. "Bring the black files." Grant left without argument. The files arrived before dawn. They contained more than Emma expected. Victor's organization depended on legitimate institutions that had no idea how deeply they were involved. A national insurer covered his shipping companies. A private bank extended credit through carefully layered corporations. 2 customs supervisors approved containers without inspection. A construction firm submitted false invoices to the city. Victor appeared powerful because no single person could see the entire system. Emma could. She built a wall of names, companies, and payments across the dining room. Adrian watched her connect each part. If the insurer freezes coverage, she said his trucks cannot enter the ports. He will use another company, not if the bank closes his credit lines at the same time. The bank will not move without evidence. Emma held up an audit report. "This gives them evidence." Grant leaned over the table. The report came from one of our own accountants. He worked for Victor before joining Cross Holdings, Emma said. He kept copies because he was afraid Victor would blame him if the numbers were discovered. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Where is he, Wisconsin? Living under his sister's name. I will send someone. No. Adrian looked at her. We offer protection, Emma said. Not pressure. He stole records. He preserved evidence. He also hid it from us, because men in both organizations taught him that truth was dangerous. Adrian glanced toward Grant. Find him. Ask once. Grant nodded. Emma turned another page. There is also a city council member receiving payments through a consulting firm. Adrian recognized the name. He has protected Victor's permits for years. Then he becomes the first person to understand that Victor can no longer protect him. By sunrise, the plan had taken shape. It did not rely on bullets. It relied on fear directed toward the right people. Emma contacted an attorney who specialized in insurance fraud. She sent him evidence through a protected channel and requested an emergency review. She prepared a report for the bank's compliance division. She drafted a disclosure package for state investigators careful to include Victor's records without exposing Cross Holdings beyond what was already legally documented. Each move was timed to occur within the same hour. Victor could survive one lost partner. He could not survive all of them abandoning him at once. At 8 in the morning, Grant returned with news. We found the accountant. Will he cooperate? Emma asked. He wants protection for his family. Give it to him. Adrian remained silent. Emma looked at him. This only works if people believe we keep our promises. Adrian nodded once. Protect them. The first call arrived at 10:15. Victor's insurer had suspended coverage pending a fraud investigation. At 10:23, the bank froze 4 accounts. At 10:30, customs officials detained 6 of Victor's containers. At 10:41, the city council member requested an emergency meeting with his attorney. Grant placed his phone on the table. Victor knows. Emma looked at the photograph again. Good. Adrian stood beside her. What happens when he reacts? He looks for the weakest link. And who is that? Emma met his eyes. He thinks it is me. The call came before noon. An unknown number appeared on Emma's phone. Adrian reached for it. She stopped him. He called me. He threatened you. He needs to believe he still controls the conversation. Emma answered. Victor. For several seconds, there was only breathing. Then his voice entered the line. You have been busy. You sent me a photograph. I sent Adrian a warning. You wrote it on my child. Victor's tone remained calm. Then you understand the seriousness of my request. I understand that your insurance is suspended. Your bank accounts are frozen and customs is opening containers your people expected to pass untouched. The silence changed. You think paperwork protects you? No. I think dependence destroys you. You are carrying Adrian's heir in a house surrounded by glass. Emma looked toward the windows. Adrian's hand closed around the back of a chair. Say what you want, she said. The northern ports. No. One shipping corridor. No. You are not negotiating. Neither were you when you threatened my child. Victor laughed softly. You have become more like him than you realize. Emma lowered her voice. No. Adrian would have sent men to your door. I sent auditors. The call ended. Adrian took the phone from her hand. You provoked him. I narrowed his options. To what running, surrendering, or exposing himself. Grant's phone rang. He answered, listened, then looked at Emma. There is someone downstairs asking for you. Who, Daniel Ward? Adrian's expression hardened. No. Emma stood. He may have information. He may have a weapon. Then Grant searches him. Adrian stepped in front of her. He pointed a gun at you. and lowered it. That does not make him trustworthy. No. It makes him possible. Daniel was brought to a secured conference room on the lower floor. He looked exhausted. A bruise darkened one side of his face. His coat was wet from snow. Grant searched him twice and placed his phone in a metal container outside the room. Emma entered with Adrian beside her. Daniel looked at her stomach before looking at her face. So it is true. Emma remained standing. What do you want? Victor knows someone inside his organization gave you records. Did you? Some. Adrian moved closer. Daniel raised both hands. I came without a weapon. You once entered a restaurant with one, Adrian said. Daniel looked at Emma. I was wrong. That is not enough, she said. No. He reached slowly into his coat. Grant's hand moved beneath his jacket. Daniel removed a small recording device and placed it on the table. Victor ordered the attack at the restaurant. He told us there would be no civilians. He wanted Cross dead and planned to blame me when it failed. Adrian looked at the device. What else is on it? Payments, threats, names. Enough to make his own people leave him. Why bring it now? Emma asked. Daniel's jaw tightened. Because he sent men to my sister's apartment. Is she safe for the moment? Emma looked at Grant. Bring her here. Adrian turned toward Emma. We are not opening the building to everyone who asks. She is not asking. Daniel is paying for protection with evidence. Daniel looked at Adrian. You wanted loyalty. This is what it costs. Adrian did not answer. Emma stepped closer to him. If we abandon her, Daniel disappears with the recordings. Victor finds him first. We lose the evidence and prove Victor was right about us. Adrian looked at Grant. Bring the sister. Use the west entrance. Daniel released a breath. Thank you. Emma sat across from him. Do not thank me yet. If the recordings are false, you leave without protection. They are real. Then you will speak to federal investigators. Daniel's eyes moved toward Adrian. I will not testify against Cross. No one asked you to. You will. Emma held his gaze. You testify to what you witnessed. Nothing more. Nothing less. Daniel studied her. You sound like a prosecutor. I sound like someone tired of men deciding that truth belongs to whoever carries the largest gun. Daniel pushed the recording device toward her. Then take it. The federal meeting occurred that afternoon. Judge Rebecca Sloan arranged it in a private office inside the courthouse. Emma arrived with her attorney. Adrian did not attend. He sat in a car across the street with Grant close enough to reach her but far enough to respect the boundary she had placed. The prosecutor's name was Thomas Bell. He was in his early 50s with tired eyes and a voice that carried no unnecessary emotion. Daniel's recording device rested in an evidence bag between them. Bell opened a folder. We know you are connected to Adrian Cross. I am married to him. We believe Cross Holdings has been used to conceal criminal income. Then you should investigate the companies involved. We are. Emma kept her hands folded. Bell placed a document in front of her. This is an immunity agreement. Her attorney read the first page. Bell continued. In exchange for full cooperation, the government will provide protection for you, your parents, and your unborn child. We will relocate you. Your legitimate assets remain yours. You will not be prosecuted for activities disclosed under the agreement. Emma looked at the pages. What do you want? Everything you know about Adrian Cross. The room became very quiet. Emma had imagined this moment during sleepless nights. An exit without poverty. Protection without Adrian. A future where her child did not grow up behind gates. Bell watched her carefully. You have spent years telling yourself you had no meaningful choice. Emma's eyes lifted. How do you know what I tell myself? Because people in coercive relationships use similar language. You believe my marriage is coercive. I believe your husband controlled your employment, education, housing, and security before you married him. Every statement was true. That truth did not contain the entire story. Bell pushed the agreement closer. Now you have a choice. Emma touched the paper. Her attorney leaned toward her. You do not need to answer today. When does the offer expire? Emma asked. Tomorrow morning. Emma almost smiled. Even freedom came with a deadline. She closed the folder. I will consider it. Adrian was waiting outside the penthouse library when Emma returned. He looked at the folder in her hand. They offered immunity. Yes, for you alone. For me, my parents, and the child. Adrian's expression did not change. What do they want? You. A clock ticked in the silence. Emma placed the agreement on the table. Adrian opened it. He read every page. She watched his face, searching for anger. There was none, only a stillness deeper than control. He walked to the safe behind the bookcase and removed another folder. What is that ownership documents? He placed them beside the government agreement. Inside were shares in the restaurant group, several properties and accounts containing enough legitimate money to support Emma and the child for the rest of their lives. These belong to you, Adrian said. Emma looked at him. When did you prepare this? After the wedding. Why? Because loving me should not be the only reason you can survive. Her throat tightened. Adrian placed a pen beside the papers. If you sign the federal agreement, Grant will take you wherever they instruct. Your parents will be moved before nightfall. Emma stared at him. You would allow me to leave, no? His voice roughened. But I will not make the mother of my child a prisoner. For years, Adrian had solved fear by closing doors. Now he stood beside an open one. Emma searched his face. You believe I might testify. I believe you are capable of choosing a life without me. Does that frighten you more than death? The honesty struck her harder than anger would have. Adrian stepped back from the table. I will not ask you to stay. Why? Because then you will spend the rest of your life wondering whether the choice was yours. Emma looked down at the two folders. One offered safety through disappearance. The other offered independence without escape. Neither required her to remain. She spent the night alone in the guest room where she had first slept after moving into the penthouse. The room had not changed. Emma had. She remembered Adrian at Veluto watching her as if he had already decided who she was. She remembered the anger of discovering that he owned her workplace and had spoken to her dean. She remembered Daniel's gun, the broken restaurant, the red files, the first time Adrian accepted her revision to a contract, the first time he stopped when she said no, the first time he admitted he was wrong. Emma placed one hand over her stomach. A child should not inherit fear disguised as loyalty. A child should not grow up believing power excused cruelty. But leaving would not erase what Emma knew or what she had built. It would only place the work into someone else's hands. At sunrise, she entered the library. Adrian stood by the window. He had not slept. Emma placed the unsigned federal agreement on the desk. I am not leaving. He closed his eyes. Only for a moment. When he looked at her again, his control had returned, but not completely. Why? Because you opened the door. That is not a reason to stay. No. Emma placed the cross-ownership documents beside the agreement. I am staying because this is my life too. I helped create what Cross Holdings is becoming. I am not abandoning it to men who believe fear is the only form of order. Adrian moved closer. What are your conditions? The old organization ends with us. His expression sharpened. No narcotics, no weapons routes, no threats against families. Every company becomes legally defensible. Every political relationship becomes transparent enough to survive scrutiny. That may take years. Then we begin now. And the men who refuse, they leave face prosecution or become Victor's problem. Adrian looked toward the city. What replaces the organization legitimate companies? Legal influence, community loyalty. Information strong enough to make violence unnecessary. You intend to turn a criminal empire into a corporation. I intend to build something our child does not have to escape. Adrian touched her face. You are certain I am choosing you. His forehead rested against hers. Not claiming, receiving. Grant entered the library moments later. Victor is moving. Adrian stepped away. We're the Cross Foundation Gala. He has men inside the service company. Emma looked at the clock. The gala began in 3 hours. Cancel it, Adrian said. No, Emma replied. Both men turned toward her. If we cancel, Victor disappears and chooses another place. You are not attending, Adrian said. He photographed me. He called me. I am the reason he will appear. You are pregnant. I am also the person who knows the plan. Adrian's jaw tightened. Emma placed her hand on his arm. You trusted me enough to let me leave. That was different. No, it was harder. The gala occupied the central ballroom of the Art Institute, the same building where Victor had first spoken to Emma. Security screened every guest and employee. Federal agents waited outside under the authority of Daniel's recordings and the fraud investigation. Grant's team controlled the exits. Emma wore a dark green dress with a small panic device hidden inside her bracelet. Adrian remained close without touching her. Guests filled the ballroom. Judges, executives, union leaders, donors. People whose decisions shaped the city while pretending they merely attended dinner. Emma moved among them calmly. At 9:17, the lights flickered. Grant's voice entered the small receiver in her ear. Service corridor, 2 men. Victor is inside. Adrian reached for Emma. She stepped back. He expects you to follow me. I am not allowing you out of my sight. Then he never enters the room we prepared. Adrian's face hardened. Emma held his gaze. Trust me. The words cost him. He nodded. Emma left the ballroom through a side gallery lined with portraits. Her footsteps echoed across the marble floor. At the far end, Victor stepped from behind a column. 2 armed men stood behind him. You came, he said. You knew I would. Victor looked at her stomach. Adrian allowed this. Adrian learned that permission is not the same as trust. Victor smiled. You still believe you changed him? I did not change him alone. She stopped 10 feet away. Victor held a pistol at his side. You destroyed my accounts. I exposed them. You turned my people against me. They discovered you could no longer pay them. You gave Daniel to the government. Daniel gave himself. Victor's smile vanished. You think law makes you powerful? No. Law makes your partners afraid of standing beside you. He raised the gun. Emma did not move. Adrian should have killed me when he had the chance. He wanted to. And you stopped him. Yes. Mercy is weakness. This is not mercy. Emma pressed the bracelet. Heavy doors closed at both ends of the gallery. Victor turned. Federal agents entered from one side. Grant and his security team entered from the other. Victor's men lowered their weapons. Victor kept his aim at Emma. You built a trap. You built it yourself. I only closed the exits. Adrian appeared behind Grant. His gun was drawn. His eyes never left Victor. Lower it, Adrian said. Victor laughed. You let her make you soft. Adrian's voice remained calm. She made me precise. Victor looked back at Emma. You belong to him. Emma held his gaze. No. I stand beside him. Victor's finger tightened. Grant moved first. A shot struck the ceiling. Agents forced Victor to the floor before he could fire again. Adrian crossed the gallery and pulled Emma against him. His hands searched her arms and face. I am fine. You stood in front of another gun. I knew where every weapon was. That does not make it acceptable. Emma touched his cheek. You trusted me. I hated every second. That is usually how trust feels for you. Behind them, agents placed Victor in handcuffs. He looked over his shoulder. This city will replace me. Emma watched him being taken away. Then the next man will understand what happened to the last one. Victor's arrest did not solve everything. Federal investigations continued. Several Cross associates were charged for crimes committed before Emma's reforms. Adrian refused to protect men who had harmed civilians or used the organization for personal cruelty. Some called him disloyal. Others disappeared from Chicago. Cross Holdings lost contracts, money, and territory. For the first time, Adrian allowed parts of his empire to become smaller. The legal companies survived. The restaurants expanded. Construction projects operated under independent review. Community leaders who once feared the Cross name began using its resources openly. Emma kept her law license after months of hearings and document reviews. She disclosed her role in uncovering fraud and cooperated with lawful investigations without violating protected legal relationships. Judge Sloan met her outside the final hearing. You walked closer to the edge than I would recommend. Emma placed one hand over her stomach. I know. Do you still believe you can build a bridge between both worlds? I believe bridges require foundations on both sides. Rebecca looked at her. And if one side collapses, then I know which direction to run. Their daughter was born during a February snowstorm. Adrian remained beside Emma through 14 hours of labor. He faced threats investigations and armed men with less fear than he showed each time a nurse entered the room. When the baby finally cried, Adrian stopped breathing. The nurse placed her in Emma's arms. She had dark hair, Adrian's eyes, and a small hand that closed immediately around Emma's finger. Grace. Laura Cross, Emma whispered. Adrian sat beside her. Grace. His voice broke. Emma placed the baby in his arms. He held her as though the world had given him something too precious to deserve. No security officers inside her classroom, Emma said. Adrian looked up. She is 6 minutes old. I know you. Boundaries should be established early. She will need protection. She will need a childhood. She will speak Italian, and English, and Russian. Emma smiled. She can choose the third language herself. Adrian looked down at their daughter. Choose, he repeated. The word still felt unfamiliar in his mouth. Years later, Voluto glowed beneath the same crystal chandeliers. The restaurant had changed ownership structures, menus, and management, but the marble tables remained. Emma sat with Adrian near the corner where he had first watched her. Grace, now 5 years old, stood beside an elderly couple at the next table. The husband struggled to pronounce the name of a Tuscan dessert. Grace corrected him in flawless Italian. The couple laughed. Grace explained the recipe with dramatic hand movements she had inherited from Emma's grandmother without ever meeting her. Adrian watched with quiet pride. Emma noticed his expression. That look seems familiar. Adrian turned toward her. It is the same look I had the first time I heard you speak Italian, the night you told Grant to bring you the waitress. I said I wanted you. You knew nothing about me. I knew you were hiding power. Emma lifted her glass. And you believed you could own it. Adrian reached across the table. His hand stopped between them. He waited. Emma placed her fingers in his. I was wrong, he said. You were. Grace ran back to the table and climbed into Adrian's lap. He lifted her easily. Daddy. That man said tiramisu wrong. Some mistakes are unforgivable. Emma laughed. Grace looked at her parents. How did you meet Adrian? Glanced at Emma. In this restaurant. Mommy worked here. She did. Were you nice to her? Emma raised an eyebrow. Adrian considered the question. Not at first. Grace frowned. Did you say sorry I changed my behavior? That is not the same. Emma covered her smile with her glass. Adrian looked at his daughter with the solemnity of a man receiving judgment from the only court that frightened him. "I said sorry too." Grace seemed satisfied. She leaned against his chest and continued describing the couple's dessert. Around them, conversation moved through the dining room. Plates arrived, glasses touched, music played softly beneath the light. Emma looked toward the service station where her law books had once waited beneath the counter. She remembered the woman she had been, tired, proud, invisible by choice. That woman had believed freedom meant needing no one. She had learned that freedom could also mean standing beside someone powerful without disappearing into his shadow. Adrian had once believed love meant closing every door behind the person he wanted. Emma taught him that love meant opening the door and accepting that she might leave. She had not. Not because she had nowhere else to go. Not because fear had made the decision. She stayed because the life before her was no longer a beautiful prison. It was difficult, dangerous, imperfect, and built through choices neither of them could make alone. Grace reached across the table for Emma's hand. Adrian still held the other. For the first time, Emma did not feel divided between the woman she had been and the woman she had become. Both belonged here. Years ago, Adrian Cross heard a waitress speak Italian and decided he wanted her. He had not understood that wanting Emma was the easy part. The difficult part was becoming a man she could freely choose. He did, and she chose him.